Welcome to the tutorial session on object-oriented concepts. In this video, we'll learn about the types of inheritance, super keyword, method overriding, abstract, and final keyword. Yes, now let us understand about inheritance. Inheritance in Java is a mechanism in which child class acquires all the properties and behaviors of a parent class. For example, son having the feature and the characteristics of a father is one the real world example of inheritance. Let me explain this inheritance concept with a simple example. Yes, consider this class person. The person will have the name and the designation, and the person can learn, walk, and eat. So all these are the features or the characteristics of a class person. Now, using this class person, I can just create some of the child class. Okay, so the child class that is created is programmer, dancer, and singer. Okay, so whenever I create this child class, for example, programmer, will inherit all the properties and the features of a base class. For example, as you can see here, name, designation, learn, walk, and eat, all are the properties of a parent class, that is person. Yes, with addition to that, this programmer will have some specific attributes, that is company name and coding. Okay, this way, whenever we create this child class, it will inherit all the properties and the features of a base class. Now let us consider one more child class, that is dancer. As you can see here, some of the specific attribute we need to define here is group name, and the dancing is specific to the dancer. Rest all the features, that is name, designation, learn, walk, and eat, are inherited from the base class, that is person. Even in a singer child class, band name, singing, and play guitar. So these are the three specific features of the child class. Rest all are inherited from the base class or a parent class person. Now, what is the main use of this inheritance? The main advantage, let me take the laser pointer. The main advantage of using inheritance is code reusability. Okay, I can reuse the code again and again. Yes. When a child class is derived from a parent class, it inherits all the members of a parent class. As you can see here, when a child class is inherited or derived from a parent class, it inherits all the members of parent class. As you can see, all the members of the parent class is inherited to the child class. Okay, I need not explicitly define it in the child class. So this is the main advantage of inheritance, that is code reusability. I can reuse the code again in the child class. I need not explicitly define it in the child class. So that is the main advantage of inheritance. Okay. Yes. Let us understand about the subclass and superclass. So in Java, we refer the parent class as a superclass and the child class as subclass. Okay. Yes. The class that inherits the properties of other class is called as subclass. Yes. The class whose properties are inherited by the subclass are called superclass. If I take a simple example, let's say class B as a son and class A as a father. Here, son inherits all the features and the characteristics of a father. That is superclass. Okay. Yes. Now, how to implement these concepts in Java? Yes, using a keyword extends. Extends keyword is used to inherit the properties of another class. Okay. For example, here is the class superclass. Now, if this is a superclass, how to create a subclass? So subclass is created using the keyword extends. As you can see here, class subclass extends superclass. Okay, so this is how the subclass will inherit all the features and the characteristics of superclass. Let me consider a simple example. As you can see here, class animal, and I just created a subclass called as dog. Class dog extends animal. So this is how dog inherits all the features of animal. By default, as you can see here, methods and fields of animal plus methods and fields of dog. So it will dog class dog will have the features of animal as well as itself. Okay. Okay. Here are the some of the types of inheritance, that is single inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hybrid inheritance, and multiple inheritance. Now, the first three inheritance, that is single, hierarchical, and multi-level inheritance, can be implemented using a class, but hybrid and multiple inheritance is not implemented using class. So the Java doesn't support these two types of inheritance. Yes, we can implement using interface. Okay, we'll understand about this interface concept in the next module, in the module 4. Okay, so in this video we will not be implementing multiple and hybrid inheritance. We are not implementing it. Okay. Yes. Now let us understand about single inheritance. Yes. If one superclass derives only one subclass, it is known as single inheritance. Yes. Here is an example of single inheritance. Okay. Class A derives class B, which means, in other words, class B inherits all the features of class A. Yeah, this can be written as you can see here, class A, class B extends the class A. Okay. Yes, this extends keyword is used for inheritance, to inherit the features of class A. Okay. Now we'll understand this single inheritance with a simple program. Now let us create a class called as animal. Okay. Class, let me take a pen. Yes, class animal, which has a method called as eat that prints prints a word eating. Now let me create one more class called as dog. Yes, as you can see here, dog extends animal, which means dog will inherit all the features of animal. Okay, the dog will inherit all the features of animal. Okay. Yes, and dog has method called as bark that prints barking. That's it. Okay. Now this animal is called as superclass and dog is called as subclass. Okay, that has all the features of animal. Okay, now if I create an object of dog, I can easily call this eat method using an object of class dog. Okay, now let me create one more class called as test inheritance. Okay, within the main functions I'll be creating a object of class dog. As you can see here, this D is an object of class dog. Okay, D dot bark. So what it prints is, yeah, I can directly call using an object of dog. I can directly call this method bark, so that will print barking. Now D dot eat, you might wonder from where eat comes. Now you know that eat is a part of it is a method of animal class, and since dog has inherited all the features of animal, so that's the reason using an object of dog I can call eat method. Okay, yeah, this is a concept of single inheritance where dog can inherit all the features of animal. Okay, yes, what is output? Yes, barking and eating. Okay, yes, let me consider one more example. Yes, class professor, where I have two variables initialized. Designation is initialized with professor and college name is initialized with Canara Engineering College. Okay, and I have got method called as void describe. Okay, that prints teaching and mentoring. Okay, so I have got a I have got a class professor where it has two variables, designation and college name, initialized with some values, and a method called as describe that prints teaching and mentoring. Okay, now let me create one more class that inherits the features of this professor. Now I'll be going to create CS professor. Now I'm going to create a class called as CS professor that inherits the features of professor. As you can see, I have used extends keyword. So whenever I use extends keyword, which means it is used to inherit the properties. Now CS professor class will inherit all the properties of professor. Okay, all the fields or all the methods will be inherited by CS professor. And at the same time, CS professor class has a variable called as subject, which is initialized with object oriented concepts. Okay, now I'm just creating an object of CS professor within the main function. Here is a main function. Within the main function, I've just created an object of class CS professor. Okay, so using this object, as you can see, I can call college name, object dot college name. So this object is of CS professor class, but since it has inherited all the features of professor, I can easily call college name. Okay, using CS professor object. Again, object dot designation. Yeah, I can call this designation using this object of CS professor since it has inherited all the features. And object dot subject. Yeah, obj dot subject. Yeah, again this is a specific to CS professor itself. And object dot describe. Yeah, that's it. The output is Canara Engineering College professor, object oriented concepts and teaching and mentoring. Okay, yes, now we'll understand the single inheritance concept with one more example. Yes, as you can see, I've just created a class called as parent class. Okay, and it has one variable called as int a. Okay, it has one variable called as int a, and it has a method called as void set data. As you can see here, this a is a local variable. Okay, the value of local variable is initialized to instance variable. As you can see here, this a is an instance variable and this is a local variable. Any variable which is outside a method or outside a block of code is called as instance variable. Any variable which is declared inside a method or a block of code is called as a local variable. And as you can see here, yeah, this keyword is used to refer instance variable. Okay, so what I'm doing here is the value from the local variable is initialized to the instance variable. Okay, yes, now I've just create one more class that's called as child class. Now yes, using extends, as you can see that I have inherited all the child class has inherited all the features of base class using keyword extends. Okay, now child class has one method called as show data. What it does is it will print the value of a. Okay, okay, fine. Now I'll be just creating one more class. Okay, within that particular class, within the main function, I'll be just creating an object of child class. Here is a child class. I'll be creating the object of child class. Using that object, I'll be calling set data. Okay, you might wonder, how can I call object, how can I call this set data using child class object? That is simply because child class has inherited all the features and properties of parent class. Okay, because that's the reason I can call set data, okay, using an object of child class. Okay, yes, object dot set data, I'm passing the value 100 and 100 value will be is assigned to this local variable a, and from this local variable I'll be assigning to the instance variable. Yes, then this instance variable is a part of an object, and object dot show data, yes, that's it. It will call this show data and it will print value 100. Value of a is 100. Yeah, that's the output. The value of a is 100. A superclass variable can reference a subclass object. Yes, when a subclass object is assigned to a superclass reference variable, then only the methods and variables defined by superclass can be accessed. Okay, now let us understand this with a simple example. Yeah, for that I'll be just taking a pen now. Okay, yes, the first I'll be just creating a class called as parent, which has a display method that prints base. I'll be creating one more class called as a child class that extends parent, which means child inherits all the properties of a parent. Okay, the child inherits all the methods defined in the parent class. And child has a method called as show that prints derived. Okay, now I'll be just creating one more class called as hello world where the main function resides. So yes, now this base is called as superclass reference variable. Okay, here base is not an object of superclass, it's just a superclass reference variable. Now this derived is called as an object of a child class. So this is how we create an object. So this is called as a subclass object. So now when subclass object is assigned to a superclass reference variable, okay, this is how a subclass object is assigned to a superclass reference variable. So now what happens here is this superclass reference variable can access only the method defined in a superclass, which means this base can access only the method defined in a superclass. Okay, so this base cannot access the methods defined in child class. As you can see, if I try to do it, see, as you can see here, this statement is commented. So if I try to access show method, okay, so then compiler will throw an error. Okay, so that is the concept. Now say suppose if I, when a subclass object, as you can see, derived is a subclass object, is assigned to a superclass reference variable. When as you can see over here in this statement, when a subclass object it is assigned to a superclass reference variable, then this superclass reference variable, that is base, can access the methods and variables of superclass only. It cannot access the methods and variables of a child class. The superclass reference variable cannot access the methods and variables of a child class. As you can see here, the superclass variable is trying to access the method defined in a child class. In that case, the compiler throws an error. But still, that particular line is commented. So what is the output here? As you can see, the output is base here, because using the superclass variable I can access the display but not show method. Okay, yes, that's it about this. We'll go to the next slide. Yes, multi-level inheritance. Let me take a laser pointer. Yes, when a class extends a class which extends another class is called multi-level inheritance. Yeah, here is an example. As you can see here, the class extends the class which extends another class. So this is called as multi-level inheritance. So as you can see here, this C inherits the properties of B, class B, and class B in turn inherits the properties of class A. So ultimately, finally, the class C will have the methods and variables of B and A. Okay, yes. As you can see here, the class C extends class B and class B extends class A. So again, this type of inheritance is called as multi-level inheritance. Yes, now let us understand about multi-level inheritance. When a class extends a class which extends another class is called a multi-level inheritance. Yes, as you can see the example over here, class C extends class B and class B extends class A. So this type of inheritance is called as multi-level inheritance. Okay, as you can see here, the class C will inherit the features of B and A. Okay, now let us understand this concept of multi-level inheritance with the example. Yes, let me take a pen. Okay, yes, the class animal has a method called as eat, so that prints eating. Okay, now I'll be creating one more class called as dog, extends animal, so the dog will inherit the features of animal. Okay, the dog will be inheriting the features of animal. Okay, and dog has a method called as bark, okay, which prints barking. Okay, now I'll be creating one more class called as baby dog, extends dog. So as you can see here, this baby dog will be inheriting the features of this dog now. Okay, so well, the baby dog will have a method called as weep that prints weeping. Okay, now suppose if I create an object of this baby dog, it can access the method weep, and it also can access the method bark, and it can access the method eat, because the baby dog will inherit the properties and methods of dog as well as animal. Okay, yes, as you can see here, this is called as multi-level inheritance. Okay, as you can see, this baby dog inherits dog and dog inherits from animal. Okay, yes, so here is an object, baby dog. D is an object. Okay, So using this, the object of baby dog, I can access the bark method and eat method. Okay, because baby dog has inherited the features of dog and animal. Yes, the output is, yeah, this is the output: weeping, barking, and eating. Okay, now let us understand this multi-level inheritance with one more example. Yes, class shape. Okay, and it has a method called as display that prints inside display, and one more class called as rectangle. Okay, extends the shape, which means rectangle inherits the properties of shape. Okay, and rectangle has a method called as area that prints inside area. Okay, now we'll be creating one more class that inherits the properties of rectangle. Okay, as you can see here, cube extends rectangle. Okay, and that has a method called as volume that prints inside volume. Okay, again, this is one more example of multi-level inheritance. As you can see here, cube extends rectangle and rectangle extends shape. Again, this is an example for multi-level inheritance. Now suppose if I create an object of cube, the object of cube can access the method volume, it can access the method area, and it can access the method display because of the concept of multi-level inheritance. Yes, let me create an object of class cube. Just created an one more class called as tester, where the main function resides. And yes, so this is called as an object. So this is an object, okay, of class cube. So that this is how I can call the method display, area, and volume. Yeah, that's it. The output is inside display, inside area, and inside volume. Yes. Yes, now let us understand about multi-level inheritance with a simple example. Class A, and it has a constructor that displays a message that is inside A's constructor. Now we'll be creating the subclass of A, that is class B extends A. Okay, so it has a constructor so that displays a message that is inside B's constructor. Okay, now A is a superclass and B is a subclass. Now B inherits the features of class A. Now I'll be creating one more class called as C that extends B. Okay, so that prints a message inside C's constructor. Now here we all, in all the classes, will be using a constructor instead of a method. Okay, now this is an example of a multi-level inheritance. As you can see, C extends B and B extends A. Okay, now let me create an object. Yes, this is an C. As you can see, the small case C is an object of class C. Okay, so now since in all the classes, that is from superclass to subclass, in all the classes we have used constructor. Now the question arises is in which order this constructor is called. Okay, as you can see, even in A, B, and C we have got a constructor. Whenever an object of C is created, now in which order the constructor will be called, whether it will be begin from C or whether it will be begin from subclass or superclass, the answer is the constructors will be executed in order, that is from superclass to subclass, which means first it will call the constructor A, that is superclass, inside A's constructor. Then after that B's constructor is called, that is inside B's constructor, and finally subclass, that is C's constructor is called. That will be in order. The execution of the constructor will be in order based on superclass to subclass. Yes. Now we'll understand about hierarchical inheritance. Yes. When a class has more than one child classes is known as hierarchical inheritance. Okay. Yes. This is an example here. Class A, and it has class A. It has more than one subclasses. Okay. So it is called as, it is an example of hierarchical inheritance. So the same example can be represented as you can see here, class A, class B extends extends A, class C extends A, and class D extends A. Okay. Yes, now let us understand hierarchical inheritance with a simple example. Yes, class animal. Okay, so it has a method eat that prints eating, and yes, class dog extends animal. Okay, and yes, it has a method called as bark and it prints barking. Okay, and again class will be creating one more class called as cat extends animal. Okay, so that prints, that has a method called as meow that prints meowing. Okay, now as you can see here, a class animal has more than one subclasses, that is the subclasses of animal are dog and cat. Okay, so here this is an example of hierarchical inheritance. Okay, now I'll be creating an object of cat. As you can see here, this is an class test inheritance where main function resides, and this is how you create an object of class cat. Here C is an object, so we'll be calling c dot meow. Yes, that is, it will print meowing, and c dot eat, it will print eating. So the answer is, yeah, this is the answer. Yeah, that is a simple example that demonstrates the working of, or demonstrates hierarchical inheritance. Yes, now let us understand about multiple inheritance in Java. Yes, Java does not support multiple inheritance through classes. Now, before looking into this statement, we'll understand what is multiple inheritance. Yes, deriving subclasses from more than one superclass is known as multiple inheritance. For example, a son having the features of both mother and father, this is an example of multiple inheritance. Okay. Yes, as you can see, let us consider one more example here. As you can see here, class C inherits the features of class A and class B. Okay. Yeah, this class C has a two superclasses. So this is an example of multiple inheritance. Okay. Yes. In Java, multiple inheritance leads to confusion for the programmer. Now let us understand with a simple scenario here. As you can see, class C inherits the features of class A and class B. But in class A, there is a method called as message. It has its own implementation, and even class B has the same method name with a message but with a different implementation. Now as you can see, the both classes have the same method called as message but has a different implementation. Okay, now the question arises is, now which copy, when C inherits A and B, now which copy of message will be available in class C? So this is this leads to confusion and ambiguity. So that's the reason Java does not support multiple inheritance through classes. But multiple inheritance can be implemented in Java by using interface. Okay, so this interface concept you will be learning in the fourth module. So even though this Java, even though this multiple inheritance cannot be implemented through class, it can be implemented through interface. Okay, a class cannot extend more than one class, but a class can implement more than one interface. Yes. Now let us look into hybrid inheritance. Even Java does not support hybrid inheritance through classes. A hybrid inheritance in Java is a combination of hierarchical and multiple inheritance. Okay, now let us consider with a simple example. As you can see here, class A derives class B and class C. So this is nothing but a hierarchical inheritance. Now class D inherits the features of class B and class C. So this is an example of multiple inheritance. So thus the combination of hierarchical and multiple inheritance here is called as an hybrid inheritance. So this is an example of a hybrid inheritance. Yes, hybrid inheritance can be achieved in the same way as multiple inheritance using interfaces in Java. Yes, even for hybrid inheritance, the Java does not support this through classes. The hybrid inheritance can be implemented using interfaces. Okay. Now let us explore about super keyword. In Java, the super keyword is used to refer immediate superclass of a subclass. Okay. Now suppose if I want to refer any superclass instance variable, or if I want to refer the superclass method or constructor, I can make use of super keyword. Okay. Yes, the uses of super keyword are: super is used to refer superclass instance variable from a subclass. Okay, and again the super keyword is used to invoke superclass method, and also super keyword is used to invoke superclass constructor. Now let us understand all these three uses with a simple example. Yes. Now let us demonstrate with a simple program how a super keyword is used to refer the superclass instance variable. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Let us consider a class with the name animal, which has an instance variable color, okay, of type string, and that color is initialized with value white. Okay. Now let me create one more class called dog that extends animal. Let me take a pen. Yes, class dog extends animal. Okay, and string color is equal to black. As you can see here, the animal here is superclass and the dog is subclass. The animal has a instance variable called as color, and even the subclass dog has a instance variable color that is initialized to black. Okay, and it has a the class dog has a method called as print color. Okay, it is going to print the color. Okay, now as you can see here, suppose if I want to print this local variable, I can just directly access just by displaying the local variable, I can access the value of that local variable. Okay, now how can I access the value of a superclass instance variable? Okay, just by using super dot color, I can access the instance variable of a superclass. Okay. Yes. So this is how I can access the instance variable of a superclass using a keyword super in its subclass. Okay. Yes. Now I'll be just creating one more class where the main function resides, and I'll be creating the object of the subclass, that is dog. D is the object name, and then I'll be calling d dot print color. Yes, the output should be black and white. Yes, the output is black and white. Yes. Now let us understand the second use of super keyword, that is used to invoke immediate parent class method. Okay. Yes. Now let us consider a class with the name animal, which has a method called as eat. Okay. Now I'll be creating one more class called as dog. It's just a subclass of animal. Okay. Now even in the subclass there is a same method called as eat. Okay, and it has a method called as bark, and it has a method called as work. Okay. Now as you can see here, this super dot eat, so this super dot eat, which it will call the superclass method. Okay, as you can see, even in subclass I've got a method called as eat, and even the superclass has a method eat. So now to call the superclass method, just I can call it using a super keyword. Okay, and then it will be calling eat and bark. Yes. Now let me create an object of class dog. For that I need a class, and I will be creating a class and a main function. So dog, here D here is the object of a subclass dog, and D dot work. So what is the output? So super dot eat will print eating, and eat method will be just printing eating bread, and the bark method will print barking. Yes. So this is the output. Yes. Now let us understand about the third use of super keyword with a simple program. Super is used to invoke a parent class constructor. Now how can I call a superclass constructor in a subclass? Okay. Yes, now let me consider the same class with the name animal. Here animal, here this is a constructor of class animal. Okay, that prints animal created, and this dog is a subclass of class animal, and again there is a constructor within that subclass called as dog. And as you can see here, this super keyword, now it will call the base class constructor. Okay, it will call the base class constructor, and it will just print a method dog created. Okay, now when I create an object of class dog, okay, automatically it will call the superclass constructor, it will display animal created, Then after that it will print dog created. Yes, the output is animal created and dog created. So that's it about this super keyword. Yes, now let us understand about method overriding. What is method overriding? Yes, when a method in a subclass has the same name and type signature as a method in its superclass, then the method in the subclass is said to override the method in a superclass, which means if subclass method is same as a superclass method, then the subclass method will override the superclass method. Okay? Yes. Method overriding is used to provide the specific implementation of a method which is already provided by its superclass. Now, for example, if I want to add some additional information or features to the subclass method, then I can make use of this method overriding. Now, let us understand this method overriding with a simple program. Yes, here is a program that demonstrates the method overriding class vehicle, and it has a method called as run. Okay, and I'll be creating a subclass called as bike. Okay, so even the subclass bike has a method void run. Okay, so now what happens here is, now suppose if I create the object of bike and call this run method, the subclass method will override the superclass method. Okay, the subclass method will override superclass method. As you can see here, now just creating an object of class bike and I'll be calling this run method. Now since the superclass has this method and subclass has the same method, so in that case the subclass method will override the superclass method. Okay, as you can see here, will execute as bike is running safely. Now let us consider a simple scenario where the superclass bank and it has a method called as get rate of interest. Now the superclass bank has three subclasses, that is SBI, ICICI and Axis. So it has the same method. All these three subclasses will override the base class method. Okay, all the three subclasses will override the base class method because each of this bank will have the different rate of interest. Okay, so each of this bank will have the specific features, so that's the reason they can simply override the base class method. Okay, as you can see, SBI might have the rate of interest is 8 and ICICI rate of interest might be 7 and Axis bank will have a different rate of interest. So in that case, all these subclasses can simply just override the base class method, adding some additional features to the subclass method. Okay, now we'll understand this concept much more better with the simple program. Yes, class bank has a method get rate of interest with the rate that returns 5, and yes, SBI extends bank, as you can see, this method overrides the base class, and yes, the SBI has a specific feature, that is the rate of interest is 8, it returns the value 8, and ICICI bank returns the value 7. Even this ICICI class has a method get rate of interest that overrides the base class, and Axis bank, it doesn't have any method. Okay, which means it will be inheriting the feature of a base class, so it will be using the value of the feature of a base class, so it will be having a rate of interest as 5. Okay, yes, now I'll be creating the objects of SBI, ICICI and Axis. So yes, now I'll be calling this the method. So SBI will be it will return a value 8. As you can see, this the method overrides the base class method, and even ICICI method get rate of interest will overrides the base class method and the value will print is 7, and Axis bank will inherit the features of a base class, which means the rate of interest here will be 5. Okay, yes, as you can see, the SBI's rate of interest is 8, 7, and yes, this is Axis rate of interest. Okay, this should be Axis bank. Okay, yes, let us understand about polymorphism in Java. What do you mean by polymorphism? The word poly means many and morphs means forms. So polymorphism means many forms. There are two types of polymorphism in Java. The first one is compile time polymorphism. Second, runtime polymorphism. Compile time polymorphism can be achieved using method overloading, and runtime polymorphism can be achieved using dynamic method dispatch. Now let us understand about method overloading. In Java, the two or more methods can have same names but with different signatures are called as method overloading. When I say signature of a method, it means the number of parameters, type of parameters, and sequence of parameters. Yes, now let us understand this method overloading concepts with a simple example. Yes, class overloading. Yes, it has the two methods, okay, with the same name. As you can see, it has the two methods with the same name but with the different signatures, okay. Yes, as you can see over here, it has integer and here it has float, okay. So this is an example of method overloading, okay, where a class has two methods, okay, with the same name with the different signatures. When I say signatures, it can be the number of parameters, type of parameters, and sequence of parameters, okay. Now we'll be creating a class called as main class, and we'll be creating an object of class overloading, okay. Now we'll be calling these two methods. Now add 50 60, it will call this method because here both the parameters are integer. Now now this add 3.5 2.5 will call this method because here both the parameters are float. Yes, that's it about method overloading. And what is the output? Yes, that is 110 and 6. Okay. Now let us understand about dynamic method dispatch. Okay, let me take a laser pointer. Yes. Dynamic method dispatch is a mechanism by which a call to an overridden method is resolved at runtime. Okay. In the previous slide, we saw about method overloading, where it is just a compile time polymorphism, but this dynamic method dispatch, it is a runtime polymorphism. Okay. Yes, the dynamic method dispatch is important because this is how Java implements runtime polymorphism. Yeah, in the exam, you might expect a question, explain runtime polymorphism in Java. In that case, you need to write about dynamic method dispatch. Okay. Yes, now we'll understand about dynamic method dispatch. When an overridden method is called through a superclass reference, the call depends on the type of the object being referred and not the type of the reference variable, which means whenever, suppose if I assign an object to an superclass reference, then using that superclass reference, if I call any overridden method, the call depends on the type of the object being referred, not the type of the superclass reference variable. Confused? Yes. Now let us understand about this dynamic method dispatch with the example. The concept will be much more clear then. Yes. Class A has a method call me. Yes, and even class B is a subclass of A, has a method void call me. So yes, class C has method call me. So all the subclass methods overrides the base class method. Okay. Now we'll be creating three objects, that is of object of class A, B, and C. Okay. Now as you can see here, this R is called a superclass reference variable. It is not an object. Now I'll be assigning the value of an object to a superclass reference. So the call, now when I call this r dot call me, the call will depend based on the object being referred, not based on the superclass reference. So here object is of class A, so that class A method is called. Now to understand much more clear, now look at this. R is equal to B, which means the object B is assigned to a superclass reference variable here. Okay, here R is a superclass reference variable and object B is assigned to it. Now when I call r dot call me, the call is depend upon the object depend upon the type of the object, not the superclass variable. So this r dot call me will call the method which is available in the class B. Now as you can see, again object C is assigned to a superclass reference variable. Okay, so whenever call is made using R, so the call will depend upon the type of the object being referred. Okay, again that R dot, the type of object here is of class C, so R dot call me will call method call me of class C. Okay, so this is, so all these call, the decision to make a call is done during the runtime. So that's the reason it is example of a runtime polymorphism. Okay, yes. Yes, now let us understand about abstract keyword in Java. Abstract keyword is used to declare the method or a class as abstract. So I can, in Java, I can create abstract method and abstract class using a keyword abstract. Abstract classes cannot be instantiated, which means I cannot create an object of an abstract class. Abstract classes may or may not contain abstract methods. Yes. So these abstract methods doesn't have any definition and it doesn't have any body. Okay, but these abstract methods have to be implemented in their subclasses. Okay, yes, as you can see here, if an abstract class is inherited, then the subclass should provide the implementations for all the abstract methods of abstract class, which means in an abstract class, if an abstract class has abstract methods, so abstract methods doesn't have any definitions, so we need to implement these abstract class in the subclass. Okay, so that the class which inherits the abstract class need to implement the abstract methods. Okay, yes, we'll understand about abstract method here. Yes, method that are declared without any body within an abstract class are called abstract method. Okay, yes, here is a general form. As you can see, that abstract type method and the list of parameters. Yes, this is how you declare an abstract method. Okay, abstract void sum and the parameter. Yes, here is a general form. Abstract class name, class name, and the abstract method. Okay, as you can see the example here, abstract class shape and abstract method here. And this method, as you can see, void sum, it doesn't have any definition. There is no body for this abstract method. So this, the definition of this void sum is done in the subclass of the class shape. Okay, so that has to be, the subclass has to implement this void sum. Okay, now let us understand this abstract keyword with a simple example. Yes, let me take a pen. Yes, okay. Abstract class animal. So this is an abstract class, and abstract void make sound, it is an abstract method. Here, as I have already told you, this abstract method don't have any definition and it doesn't have any body. So this abstract method has to be implemented in the subclasses. Now I need to create a subclass of animal. Yes, as you can see, the dog is a child class or subclass of animal. Okay, so as you can see, the implementation of this abstract method is done over here in a subclass. Okay, as you can see over here, we have implemented the abstract method in the subclass. Now I'll be creating one more class called as cat. Even over there, I will be implementing the abstract method. As you can see, in the base, in the superclass, has an abstract method called as make sound that has to be compulsorily implemented in the subclasses. Okay, so as you can see, I'll be just printing some statement, that is meows. Now I'll be creating an object, that is object name is dog d1. Okay, and d1 dot make sound. Okay, so yes, d1 dot make sound is, it will print bark, and c1 dot make sound will print meows. So the output is bark and meow. So this is the output. Okay, now let us understand abstract method with one more example. Yes, I will be creating a class vehicle, and yes, it has the class vehicle has a abstract method called as bike. Okay, and it has also has a concrete method called as void car. What do you mean by concrete method? Concrete method means the method which has a definition. What is a abstract method? Is that method has which has doesn't have any definition and which doesn't have any body. That is called as an abstract method. Okay, now this abstract method has to be implemented in the subclasses. Now let me create a subclass of class vehicle. Yes, we have just created a subclass of class vehicle, that is we created Honda, and as you can see the abstract method is implemented in this subclass void bike. Okay, and yes, this Honda will inherit the features of vehicle. As you can see, the Honda has inherited the feature called as void car. Is that method, that feature is being inherited by class Honda. Okay, now I will just creating a object of Honda. I can easily call this, easily access this car method. Okay, yes, I'll be just creating a method, I mean object of Honda, class Honda, and I'll be calling object dot bike, that will print bike is running, and object dot car. Okay, and that will print car is running. Yes, because this Honda has inherited the features of vehicle, this object of Honda was able to call car method. Okay, yes, what is the output now? Bike is running and car is running. Yes, now let us explore about final keyword in Java. Yes, final keyword in Java has three uses. Let me take laser pointer. Yes, the final keyword in Java has three uses. The final keyword can be used along with variables. So the final variables are always constant. Now if you want to make any variable constant, you can make that variable as final. Okay, yes, I can have some final methods. The final method cannot be overridden. Okay, now for example, in a superclass method, if I make superclass method as final, then that method cannot be overridden, which means I cannot have a same method name in the subclass. Okay. The next one is final class. The final class cannot be inherited by another class. Yes. Now let us understand all these three types with a simple example. Okay, first we'll discuss about the final variable. The final keyword is used to make a variable constant. So if I make any variable final, that particular variable will be constant. The variable declared with the final keyword cannot be modified by the programmer after initialization. Yes, as you can see here, as you can see, this age is a variable, I've made it as final. Okay, age is a variable, I've made it as final and initialize with the value 32. Okay, now if I initialize value 45, the compiler will throw an error. Okay, telling that trying to change the final variable should be always constant, it should be always 32, and I cannot change the value of the final variable. Okay, yes, this, if I execute this, it will throw an error. Now what error? As you can see here, cannot assign a value to final variable. Okay, so this is an error message. Okay, it's an error message, and yes, it is not an output, it's just an error message. Okay, the next is final method. Methods declared as final cannot be overridden. Okay, the compiler checks and gives an error if you try to override an final method. Okay, yes, as you can see here, I have got a class called as A. So within that class A, there is a method, and that method is prefixed by the keyword final. Okay, so this final method cannot be overridden. Okay, which means in the subclass, if I try to, this is a class B is a subclass of A. Okay, now if I in the subclass, if I try to create a same method, then the compiler will throw an error. Okay, telling that the final method cannot be overridden. Okay, again, if you try to execute this, compiler will throw an error. Okay, you will get an error message. This is an error message which you'll get. Okay, so the final method cannot be overridden. Okay. Yes. Now we'll demonstrate the use of final class with a simple program. Yes. Final class cannot be inherited from another class. Yes. As you can see here, we have got a class called as final class, and that is prefixed with the keyword final. I've made this class as final, which means if I make this class final, this class cannot be inherited by any class. Okay. Yes. Now if I try to inherit, now the child class is trying to inherit the features of final class, but compiler will throw an error. Okay. Yes, that is not possible because final class cannot be inherited. Again, we'll get an error message. This is an error message which we'll get. We try to inherit the final class. Yes, that's it about the final keyword. Yes, that's it. Thank you for watching this video. Please do like, subscribe and share. Thank you so much.